Hey there Retro Games fans, this is Andy C from PSP. Welcome to this Friday's video, or one of two in fact. I've done two videos. So my other video, I'll be talking about homebrew, and you can find that up there, there's the link. You can find that up there, and that is basically, if you're ever into the PSP, you will almost certainly have encountered the homebrew community. You may have decided to jailbreak your PSP back in the day, or you may not have done. But in 2025, it's incredibly easy to do, and I will talk you through how you can set up homebrew on your PSP using something called Arc. It's very easy, it's non-intrusive. You can do the temporary one or you can do the permanent one, it's up to you. It's very easy to install the apps, and there were loads of great homebrew bits of software out there back in the day, loads of independent games, and of course you can also play your ROMs through emulators such as the SNES emulator and the Mega Drive / Genesis emulator. So lots of really cool things to try out, and I will talk you through all of the steps for that in the other video that I published this week. The main topic for today, for this particular video, is getting yourself going with some emulation for PSP. So on the kind of flip side, really, if you want to emulate the PSP and you want to have a go with playing some, maybe you got rid of your PSP. So this happened to me. I sold my PSP. I kept a couple of games back. I would have loved to have gone back and played those games again. Obviously PSP emulation without an actual PSP device is probably the best way to go. So I'm going to talk to you about how you can get emulation going. So that'll be emulation on your computer, also on your mobile phone, which is a relatively new concept these days, and also on the Raspberry Pi. I'll just briefly touch on that. And I'll also give you some tips on how you can get your saves transferred from your PSP. If you've still got a memory card knocking about, or you still have a PSP and you want to play it on the big screen, what you can do there as well to get those saves moved across, so you can carry on with your games on a bigger screen or on a different device entirely if you want to, maybe on your mobile phone. So that is what we're going to be talking about on here today. One of the other things, and the reason why this crosses over with the other video that I've done, is you can also play a lot of the homebrew stuff that you could play on the homebrew cracked version of your PSP. You can also play through the emulator as well. So it is another way of getting back into some of that fantastic indie content that was produced back in the day and still is being produced today in the homebrew community for the PSP. So without any further ado, let's get stuck in, and I'm going to talk you through how we can get you all set up with a shiny new PSP emulator on the device of your choice. Let's dive right in with that. Let's talk about PSP emulation. So what you're going to want is the PPSSPP emulator. It is the gold standard in PSP emulation, and it is also very, very difficult for me to say, so I'm going to try and limit the amount of times that I actually say it. We're going to talk about three different ways of using the PPSSPP emulator today, and first of all we're going to talk about getting it installed on your home computer, whether that's a Mac or a PC. So first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to the PPSSPP.org website, and that is where you're going to find the emulator. It will generally know, as you can see here, look, which operating system you're using. So if it's Windows, it should show Windows. You can get PPSSPP Gold, and that is essentially when you're running it on your phone, that will be an ad-free version of the app, and it really is there just to support the developers. So if you're feeling like you want a flashy gold logo, is what they talk about, you get your flashy gold logo and you're supporting the development team, go ahead and buy PPSSPP Gold to keep the project going and to support the developers that are building it, which is a great thing to do, obviously, if you want to do that. So we're going to, for the purposes of this demo, we are going to just download this standard version. So if we click on download here, we're going to go to Mac OS. Obviously we could have clicked on the link at the bottom. We're going to just do it this way, just so you can see here all of the different platforms that it's supported on. So we've got the standard installer for Windows, which is, if you're using Windows, is what you're going to want to get. We are going to talk about iOS and Android later on as one of our options as well. We are just going to go ahead and get the Mac OS version here. Windows version is practically identical. So if we go to the folder here, it's now downloaded. So for Mac installation, nice and straightforward. If Windows installation is going to be a standard installer, just run through the installer for that. For Mac, obviously we just get the whole application here, and we're just going to drag and drop that into our applications folder. So that, as far as we're concerned, we are now ready to go. For the Mac, what you might find when you run this is that you'll get a prompt to say that it doesn't know the developer, and so you'll need to go into your system security settings and just enable that. That is very, very straightforward to do. Yeah, under your security settings, basically, I'm not going to show you on the screen because I don't want you to see my machine, but if you go to, I think it's privacy and security, and you'll see the option light up in the list there for PPSSPP, and you just allow that to be run. Just say run now and you'll be able to get it up and running. Okay, so that is it. Just one point of note. So if you've got a PC, you might have something called Launchbox. If you've got a Mac, you might have something called OpenEmu, which is this little app that's running over here. OpenEmu is a fantastic little cataloging system, much like Launchbox, very similar apps. OpenEmu is a free app which is really, really cool, and it's got most sort of mainstream emulators on it. It's fantastic, and I do a lot of my emulation through this when I'm doing my filming. Obviously you can get your backup copies of your ROMs and pop them in here. It's very, very easy. It's just a drag and drop and it will install them, and you can run them in here. Now for PSP, I would not recommend using this. There are a few emulators where it is just better to get the actual app itself to run it rather than trying to run it through here. It's got the PPSSPP engine in it, but I think it's an older version, and so it really struggled, especially when I was doing the Vice City and Liberty City Stories video. I was getting some real weird graphic behavior on there, so that's why I decided to run PPSSPP. And I like the app so much that I really wanted to have another look at it and actually do a separate video rather than just talking about it briefly in my month with episode later on. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start up the PPSSPP app. So let's go get that started, and I'll be back with you in a couple of seconds. Okay, so here we go. This is the PPSSPP emulator started up, and you can see we've got a bunch of games here that we're ready to play. I'm just going to give you a quick tour around the application itself just to give you a feel, but we're going to dive into gameplay pretty soon. So firstly, if we have a look under load here, so load is just basically going to bring up a dialog box, and that will allow you to navigate to your PSP games. You can find PSP games online. I'm not going to give you the locations of these. You can go and find them for yourselves. For copyright reasons, pirating reasons, I'm not going to put that on there, but there are plenty of really good sites for this for you to go and find your backup copies of your PSP games. So you can go and hunt those down, and I've done that. There's been games that I've been playing this month. I've got all of these games on the PSP, and I've just gone to seek out their digital versions so that I can have a play of them on here, show you them on the emulator, and all those kind of things as well. So what we're going to do today is we're going to play Burnout Dominator, and then what I will also do later on is I will show you Burnout Dominator rendered on the big screen directly from the PSP itself. So I'll tell you how I managed to get the PSP hooked up, and I'll show you the difference. But what you'll notice is just how well the PPSSPP emulator works and how it gets things loaded. So the first things we're going to need to do, we're going to go into our settings here. Now, what I would generally suggest to you is there's probably not a great deal you want to do in here. There are loads of little things that you can do to fiddle about with audio, to adjust your frame rates, your look at frame skipping, all of those kind of things. And generally speaking, what I would suggest that you do is, if you are having problems, if you're getting sort of some tearing or you're getting some dropouts of frames and those kind of things, go and have a look at the PPSSPP forum. Go and have a look around on the web and see what other people are doing. There's lots of good advice out there, some which I've used myself. And in fact, actually, the reason why I'm using this actual emulator application itself, as I mentioned before, I used it in OpenEmu. I had a search around because I was having such a bad time with it. And basically people just told me to go and get the app, which is what I've done, which is why I wanted to show you today. So lots and lots of things for you to fiddle about with in here if you've got problems. But if you are having issues, obviously go and have a look. If it's not obvious what you need to adjust, go and have a look online, and people will tell you what sort of things you want to set up. Controls, very easy. What I would generally recommend, because this is a PSP, if you have a PlayStation, if you have a PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5 or even a PlayStation 3, I would strongly suggest using those controllers with PPSSPP. The button mapping is obviously incredibly straightforward because it's the same buttons. You will obviously need to decide whether you want R2 and L2 as your shoulder buttons or L1 and R1 as your shoulder buttons, because you only have two on the PSP, and obviously your right analog stick will also be surplus to requirements, but that's fine. So you'll need to decide how you want to set that up, but that is usually pretty straightforward to do. In fact, actually, if you go into control mapping here, you might find that your shoulder buttons are not set up. So you can just go in here and you can click on the shoulder buttons that you want for left and right. So for me, I'm using a PlayStation 4 controller. Getting that set up is incredibly easy. All you need to do is hold the PlayStation button down and the options button down, and it will go into pairing mode. Go into your Bluetooth settings and you'll see it appear on your Bluetooth. Click on it, job's done. That's it. It's as easy as that. Xbox is very, very similar in that respect. You can just hold the Xbox button down until it goes into pairing mode, go into your Bluetooth settings, and you can obviously get the Xbox controller set up that way. What you can also do is you can just plug the PlayStation controller directly into USB as well, and that will also work. And if you're using PlayStation controller, it will just work straight out of the box. The only thing you might need to do, as I mentioned before, is come into here into your control mapping and set that up. You may want to calibrate your analog stick as well if you want to, if you're having problems with that, but generally I've not needed to do that. Not much to do in audio. That's all very, very straightforward, unless you want to just adjust the game volume on your PC. So if you, for whatever reason, you want the game volume to be a bit lower than your PC volume, absolutely you can do that. Networking is not something that I've used at all. Obviously there were some networking capabilities on the PSP. Generally these days, most of those are surplus to requirements, and getting your PSP actually hooked up to your Wi-Fi can also be quite a job, as the protocols for Wi-Fi connection are largely out of date now, so you'll have to basically reduce all the security on your Wi-Fi network to be able to get that to work. So I'm not going to talk about that today, but obviously that is a setting in here should you wish it. Obviously, I suppose the advantages of using this is that you can play online PSP games if you can find servers that still support them. You can play those online PSP games without having to work out how to get your PSP onto the network. So I suppose that's a really good advantage of using this product, although I have not done that. And then everything else really is just sort of minor things here. So a little bit of quality of life improvements. Setting your memory stick up here as well, so you can define a memory stick folder. I'll also talk to you a little bit about the memory stick and how you can get that working if you've got game saves on your PSP. Say for instance your PSP has died, or you just want to transfer a save, so that's something I had to do recently. I will talk to you a little bit about how you can do that as well. It is possible, although it will depend on what sort of memory card you're using in your PSP. And that is it. That is it for all the settings. So there's not much you're going to need to do in there. Generally speaking, you can get your games loaded and you can come straight into here. Generally, I would suggest having all of your ROMs in a single location. You can see here I've actually got them in my OpenEMU folder, so I have to drill down to find them. If you're only installing this emulator, if you haven't got a catalogue library tool like OpenEMU or Launchbox, I would just put all your PSP games in a folder quite high up in your structure, so you can just very quickly get to them. I haven't been able to work out how to set this as my default folder. I'm sure that you can. You know, I've got a home button here. I'm not sure where that takes me, as I've already navigated to here. I don't want to click on that. Other things in the interface here, so we've got recent, so any games that I've been playing recently will appear in this box. So if I click over here, you can see. Let's hope it hasn't forgotten where I was. It hasn't. And I've also got homebrew and demos. Now this is really, really cool. The PSP was somewhat of a behemoth when it came to homebrew. I had homebrew installed on my old PSP 1000, and I used to use that absolutely loads. Most notably, I had the Scum VM engine installed on there and played Summer Max Hit the Road on my PSP from beginning to end, and it was brilliant. I loved having that portable. It was fantastic. So if we click on the PSP Homebrew store here, there are quite a lot of games in here that are just free, that you can just go get, that people have released. The one that a couple here that I actually know and have talked about, in fact, before. One is Chucky Egg, which is a fantastic game from the BBC Micro from the 1980s, and of course Breakout, which I haven't looked at, but I assume that is Breakout as in the actual game Breakout, not something different. But there are some great little games in here. I had a look at one or two of these, and there are some really fabulous little games. Obviously, I had a bit of a look at Chucky Egg. I mean, you know, that's just a game that is very present in my memory. And when I did my BBC Micro a few months back, I played Chucky Egg and remembered just what a great game it is. But we're not going to be having a look at that. We are going to be having a look at Burnout Dominator, and I will show you Burnout Dominator. So I'm going to load the game up, and I will show you what it looks like and also what you can do once you're into the game. So let's hop into Burnout Dominator on the PPSSPP emulator, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so just before we load into this, one of the things you'll find is that when you download ROMs, sometimes they'll come compressed. So just a heads up, you will need to uncompress them before you load them up, and you will get what's called an ISO, which is a .iso file, which is essentially the disk. It's a disk image, and that is what this application is looking for. So when you click on load and you navigate to that, you might find that you'll have a load of folders with the games in, and then underneath those folders you will find the actual you'll actually find the game ISO itself. So those are what you'll need to click into. Alright, so let's click on Burnout Dominator and get this game started. Let's move my mouse out of the way. Okay. Alright, so let's go straight into the game. I can't believe this game is from 2007, that's crazy. Okay, here we go. So, straight away you can see just how bright and clear the graphics are for a game that is of this age. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for the heads up. Yes, that's lovely. This isn't helpful for demos. EA, let me do my demo bit. Thank you very much. Right, okay, here we go. So you can see straight away just how nice this is. And obviously I'm assuming we're going to get interrupted on several occasions while it tells us how to play the game. Yeah, using it with the old analog sticks. Where's my break? Right, okay, yes, I know I need to fill that. I pressed the wrong button. So I've got R2 and L2 mapped as my buttons. That's what I want. Square is break. It's quite nice playing it with a full analog stick. One of the things that I liked about the PSP but also didn't like about the PSP was the analog stick. So it was kind of nice to be able to have an analog stick on a small device like that. But I did generally find it a little bit on the fiddly side. It was quite, your thumb would sort of slip off it quite easy. So it is quite nice actually playing with a PS4 stick. There we go, our boost is ready. So we're not going to do a review of Burnout on the PSP, but I just wanted to show you just kind of how nice actually the PPSSPP emulator is, and how it does, I actually think, a pretty good job of upscaling the graphics. They just seems quite vibrant, and apart from, almost imperceptible tear. I did play Daxter earlier, and there was quite a little bit of sort of frame tearing and that kind of thing, but to be honest with you, it was pretty imperceivable, and this seems even better. It just runs really smoothly as though I was playing it on that device. So yeah, really impressed with how that works. So let's just quickly talk a little bit about what you can do whilst you're in game. A couple of really useful little features. So if we hit escape, we have a few little settings over here on the right hand side. So obviously we can just carry on and continue. We can also go in and adjust our settings, so it just takes us back to the same settings that we had before. So that's really nice, because if you're playing the game, obviously if you're getting frame dropout and all those kind of things, you can dynamically update your settings here and just make a change. And you can see here actually the rendering resolution here actually 2 times PSP. I wonder if we go for 4 what that actually ends up looking like. That breaks it. Don't do that. Let's go back to that. Oh no, hang on. Let's just try that again. Let's go back. Have I broken it? Let me see. I don't know if that was any different actually. But I mean, you can run it at 1080p. That does feel a little bit sharper. Maybe that's just my imagination. But yeah, you can do that. I hadn't actually tried that before, as you can probably gather. Randomly, that hasn't paused this time when I've pressed escape. I have noticed that actually. There's a couple of times when I've done that. When I was playing Grand Theft Auto, it didn't necessarily pause. So you can see it's just running in the background there. So we've got a game config. So if we want to create specific game configs for how we're set up with this particular game, that will save the game settings, and that will you can come back then when you play this game again, it'll remember those settings, and that is fantastic. We've got our display setup as well. So we're already in wide aspect on the PSP screen anyway, but if we wanted to fiddle about with that a little bit, we can do that if we really wanted to. Again, I've not had any real need to do it. But the best feature, I think, is the save state on the left hand side here. So if we want to click our save state, there we go, that's done. And then what we can do is we can just click on that one, and it'll just take us back. There you go. Now this isn't particularly useful for a game like this, or well, I guess it could be. But what it is useful for is games like Grand Theft Auto. So for instance, when I was playing Grand Theft Auto, I'm not quite sure what's gone on with the graphics there. I think we might have broken it. The car appears to have disappeared. This is the sort of thing you will find, and obviously if you fiddle about with the graphics and things like that, you will get weird behaviour like this. Let's put that back in 2x mode here. And then hopefully that's resolved whatever I've done. No, I don't think it has. Never mind. Yes, the save states are really useful. One of the things in Grand Theft Auto that's a real nuisance is when you're, especially in Liberty City Stories, had a really tough mission towards the end of the first island where you're in a container ship and everybody's attacking you with chainsaws. It's really hard. I remember it being really hard the first time I played it. And every time you die, you've got to go all the way back. You lose all your weapons, so you've either got to reload your save and sort of go back from your safe house, or you do the thing where you get the cab and it takes you back to the mission start, and you've got to do it without any weapons, which is impossible. So you can use the save states, and of course you can do it, and you can basically all along you can quickly do save states and just kind of give yourself a little bit of a fighting chance of getting through it without having to keep going back and doing the whole thing all over again. So it is really useful. You may argue that that is cheating a little bit. After about 10 attempts at trying that mission, I decided that I was fine with that. So there you go. All right, so that is a little look at Burnout, just running in PPSSPP. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about how you can get your saves transferred next, and then we'll have a look at the emulator running on a mobile device. So we're almost there, but let's go have a look at those couple of things just now. Okay, so what you're looking at here at the moment is the PSP connected to my Mac directly, just so I can show you what's on the screen at the moment. And you'll see I've got USB Auto Connect highlighted there. So I'm going to come back and talk to you about that in about a minute's time. But basically, if you're in a mode where you would like to take your PSP saves and you would like to use them on your emulator, so say for instance you're traveling with your PSP and you play a game and you come home and you're like, I'd like to play it but I don't want to play it on the PSP, I'd like to put it on a big screen, then this is the bit of the video that you want to be listening to. It is very possible to transfer your saves onto a PC or a Mac and then have them appear in your emulator as well. And there are a couple of little tips and tricks to this. It is not always as straightforward as you might think. So your two options that you've got basically are connecting via USB, which is what here. So on your PSP itself, you're going to want to go to into your system settings, and you're going to want to go to USB Auto Connect, and that will take. You can plug a standard USB. I think it's USB Mini, I think is the name of the port, and plug the USB into your PC or Mac, and it will appear as a drive on your Mac. And that is obviously very easy to navigate around. So that's one option. You can do that. And the other option is to use a memory card. So that's what I have done. What I've got here, this is the PSP save location on the emulator itself. So if we load up the emulator, I'll show you how you get to that. So we bring PPSSPP up here. Under Settings, we go to System. And then down here we can see the memory stick folder and show memory stick folder. So we can set a memory stick folder up wherever we like on our drive. And what I've got here is the memory stick folder. So if I click on that, this is the one that I've got here, and you can see it says PSP save data. And then under PSP, I've got all the folders that are created automatically. So if you set that as your folder and then go into a game on your emulator and save a game, this is what will appear. So you'll find underneath the folder that you set it as, you'll find this structure set up here. When you connect to your PSP as well, you'll see the same setup in the drive. So when you connect the PSP via USB, you'll see this same folder structure in there as well. I'm going to plug in my memory card. So if you're going to do it via memory card, one thing you'll need to do is you'll need to be sort of prepared for this. So the PSP came with something called Memory Stick Pro Duo, which was a Sony proprietary format. The nice thing with the PSP, and this doesn't apply to the Vita unfortunately, is that you can get a Memory Stick Pro Duo micro SD adapter. So if you pop that into Amazon, you'll find one. They cost pennies. They are very, very cheap to buy. And if you've got a spare a micro SD card knocking around, you just plug it into that, and the PSP will be able to format it and read it. And of course, the nice thing about micro SD is it's also very, very cheap. I have now plugged that into my Mac, and what I now have is something that looks like this. It's at the moment probably not that much use to you, and this is also what you'll see if you use your PSP as a drive. You can see that PSP folder here, and you can see the save data folder here, and if we click into that and we click into the save data here, you can see, there we go, a load of folders. Now this won't mean a great deal to you, but these are basically your saves. So if you click into any one of these, you'll see they've got a few files that sit underneath, and they're all very, very similar. Generally got a little icon. If you click on the icon and open that up, we can see actually I recognise that as being Liberty City Stories, for instance. What about this one? Watch this be the same. It is. Let's pick something that looks a little bit different here. There we go. Assassin's Creed Bloodlines. There we go. Different ones. So you can see, you can generally find out what they belong to there on that one as well. Now, the next thing, obviously, you want to take your save files on your PSP, and you can copy those all into the same save data folder in your PSP Emulator save data folder. And for most games, or for many games, when you load that game up, it will just give you those save options and you can continue. Obviously, if you want to put them back on the PSP later on, you've got to remember to do that. That's absolutely fine. Just remember to copy them back, do the reverse. What you may also find, and you can see here I've got something called copy. And the reason I've got something called copy here is because I was having a bit of a fiddle about. I tried doing this with Grand Theft Auto when I was doing the recording, and I run into a bit of an issue, which is that when I opened up Grand Theft Auto, I realised that actually the saves weren't appearing. Now, one of the things that's really, really useful is when you load up here, if we go back and we start up a game. So let's start up Grand Theft Auto Liberty City. Keep an eye on this top bit up here. We will see that change in a minute. So I'll just click through. There we go. So you'll see here it says ULUS 10041, and you can see it's loaded up my game here as well. So if I click into here and I go to game and I load game, you can see all of my save files here. Now, when I first loaded up Liberty City Stories, there was nothing in there, despite the fact that I'd copied over a whole load of saves. So if we go back on here, so ULUS 141. So you can see here 141. So that's save 5, save 4, save 3, save 2, and save 1. When I transferred them from the PSP, you'll see here, if I click on this one, that is a Liberty City save right there, and that is ULES 00151S0. So that's the 0 save, that's the second save, that's the third one. But you'll notice this number here is different, ULES 00151S0. The reason for that is that the disc that I've got for Liberty City Stories has a slightly different version of the game on it to the version of the game that I have downloaded for my backup for me to play through the emulator. It's easy to get around. Basically, all you need to do is to save your game on your PSP. If you're finding this issue, so you go into the emulator and you're finding that you haven't got the save file there, don't worry. Go into your game, play the game until you get to the very first save point and make a save. And then what you will find is that when you make that save, you will get, it will create a folder. So that's what you can see. I've got this one here. This is for Vice City, actually, that one there. There we go. That is a copy. So that's the original save file that the emulator popped down for me. So what I did was I made a copy of this folder. I then, in the original folder, deleted these files here, and I replaced them with the save files from the PSP. So I'll just explain that again. Essentially, the PSP emulator will create the folder name for that particular version of that game. And you can see, obviously, you know, as we know, when we looked at the game, that matches this here, 10041. So it creates a ULUS 10041 1S0 folder with the save data from that particular game. Remove that. See, just create yourself a copy if you're worried about it, which is what I've done here. Remove that, and then go to the file for with the latest version of the save that you want from the PSP. Take those files and transfer them into that folder there, and you will have the latest save. When you go back into the game again, it will then load that. Now, I don't know if this works for every single game, but it certainly worked for Grand Theft Auto. They obviously didn't change the way that the games save between versions. That could be a thing. As I say, for most games, you'll probably find that this will just work and you won't need to go through this process, but it is useful to know. So there you go. There's a couple of ways of doing, of transferring your saves one way and the other, which means you can then obviously continue your game on your full screen, or you can continue it on the PSP itself. So conscious that this has been quite a long video, I thought it was going to be a short one because we're talking emulators, but I'm just going to talk to you about one more option. And now there is another option which I haven't shown you, but I can talk about. Obviously, you can also do this on Raspberry Pi. It uses the same PPSSPP emulator out of the box. And you can pretty much use it in the same way. Obviously, the difference is if you're using something like RetroPie, you'll get the PSP games appearing in your library on your ribbon bar, and you can just select them that way, so you don't get the PPSSPP emulator software appearing in the same way. But one of the things that you might want to do, for the reasons that I've mentioned before, is that you might want to, if you're familiar with Raspberry Pi and you're comfortable with doing it, is diving into your settings and updating the PSP emulator to whatever the latest version is. So I think that will resolve some of the issues that we've been having. But Raspberry Pi does run it quite well. I've run a few games on the Raspberry Pi for PSP. They do run pretty well, but I still think this is probably the best way to do it on your PC or on your Mac. All right, let's have a quick look now then at the PSP emulator on your mobile phone. Alright, so this is how you get the PSP emulator on your mobile phone. And this is very, very simple as well. Ultimately, there's been a bit of a change in the law in terms of Apple locking down emulators, and so as of now, as of in the last sort of, well, I don't know, probably the last 6 to 12 months maybe, you have been able to get emulators on your mobile phone if you have an Apple phone. Obviously, if you've got an Android phone, you've been able to do that forever. It's easy enough to find if you're using an Apple device, and obviously you're going to just get it from the Play Store on Android as well. Very, very similar setup. We go into here and we're just going to search for PPSSPP again. So there we go, PPSSPP, and it is already installed on my phone already, but obviously you can just get it and it is free. So we can just open that up, and already you can see here that I've actually already got Burnout running on this. If I go to exit to menu, and let's exit from there, you can see it's a very, very similar interface to what we had on the computer. Now, one of the nice things about this, of course, is that if you don't own a PSP but you've got all the games, then you've still got your portable device. And the nice thing is, of course, as well, is that if you've got an iPhone, something like a Pro Max, you've probably got a bigger screen on your phone than you had on your PSP in the first place. The downside, of course, is that you do have these on that, you do have these absolutely god-awful controls on the side. Now, I'm not going to be able to play this because I'm just mirroring my iPhone screen on my Mac. So trying to use the controls on here with with my mouse is going to be practically impossible. But you can see, obviously, when you're using this on the go, you've got your all your buttons on here that you can use. So let's start here, and let's go to new profile. profile. Can we do that? Oh, I've got to use the controls, of course. I'm trying to do it with the mouse. Profile. Yeah, trying to use it with the mouse is absolutely impossible. But one of the things I would also say is that using the screens on here is also a bit of a nuisance. So you might want to look at something like a backbone, which is basically a device that you sit your phone in. I did have one for my previous one, but obviously now Apple have moved to USB-C. It is now surplus to requirements and has been traded in. But you can pick those up. They're not that cheap, but they do work. And you can also get Bluetooth controllers and things like those and pair those on your phone as well. And of course, the nice thing about this is you could also do this on your iPad. So you can stand your iPad up, get yourself a controller, either wire it in or get yourself a little Bluetooth controller. Lots and lots of options for controllers, but I would definitely recommend something like Burnout, which I did play on the iPhone. Really doesn't work very well with those on-screen controls. But you know, if you need to scratch the itch, or if you're playing something that doesn't require you to be quite so accurate, maybe a turn-based game or something like that, you might find that you get better results. So there you go. Generally speaking, I did find this works really well. It's not supposed to be as efficient into the code base. It's supposed to be interpreted rather than compiled, I believe. I understood there was some differences on the iPhone version as compared to that on your PC and Android. But the developers say that it runs just as well, and to be honest with you, I have not seen any issue with it. If you've got a modern iPhone, it's more than capable of running the software, and obviously to use it, pretty much identical as well. So there you go. So we've talked a little bit about how you can get the emulator running on your PC or your Mac. We've talked about it running on your Raspberry Pi, although that is something that you will get it out of the box. You can download your ROMs in the same way. I haven't talked to you obviously about getting that set up and making that better, but generally speaking, I think phone or Mac is probably going to be your best bet for emulation if you don't have a PSP. There you go, that is it. So let's just quickly, very quickly wrap up, because I appreciate this has been quite a long one, and we'll talk to you about what's coming up next. I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so there you go. That was how you can get the emulator set up for the PSP. Hopefully you found that really useful. One of the things I did just want to talk about quickly was also the difference between running the emulator and also using the PSP hooked up to your TV. Now obviously if you're using the PSP as nature intended on your PSP screen, then it's quite a small screen by modern standards, and so graphically not going to be a problem. It has nature intended and it is perfectly optimized for that size of screen. That's great. If you are thinking about running the PSP on your bigger screen, there are a couple of things that you'll need to do. So you'll need, first of all, a newer version of the PSP. You'll need what is called the PSP 3000 or the 2000 or the PSP Go. So the launch PSP won't give you what you need. And essentially on the bottom here, you've got this little port and you can plug the lead into the bottom there, and you can hear the audio starting up straight away there as soon as I unplug that, because that's transferring the audio signal as well. And that will plug into something like this, which is an OSSC. And you can see here, you have to have a special lead, which you buy for the PSP, which is the lead I just showed you on the plug there. Plug into something like an OSSC or a retro scaler, something like that, and that will allow you to basically run in your component outputs and also your audio down the bottom there. So you get the 5 plugs, plug those in, HDMI out of the back of that if you're running this to a modern device. If you're running it into an older device, such as the TV that I've got behind me here, you can just run that straight into the back of the television. You will probably get better results if you've got an older television to do that with. You're then also going to need something like this, which is a video capture card, and if you're running it into a computer. So if you're running it into a TV, great, you can go straight from your OSSC into HDMI and into the back of your television. If you want to capture it on your computer, you're going to need a video capture device like that. Now, I would generally recommend going for the emulator, and the reason for that is on the screen right now. So what you're seeing here is 2 side-by-side shots of the PSP emulator and the PSP streamed directly to my computer through the video capture card. And as you can see, the PSP emulation part is very crisp, and there, as we mentioned in the video there are lots of ways of upscaling and improving the quality of the output from the PSP. It does a really good job of rendering it. You haven't got any analog to digital conversion happening there, so it's all nice and straightforward and very, very good results, and it makes PSP games look fantastic in 2025. On the other side there, you've got the PSP hooked up through my video card, through the OSSC, and you can see it looks ropey. And in fact, actually, if you look at the homebrew video that I did as well, you'll see when I'm running things like this, I'm showing you the screen, showing you how to do the settings, and I'm recording that on there, and you see like the SNES emulator that I run, for instance, you can see it's actually quite hard to even read the words and the text on the screen because the resolution is just really, really poor. So I would definitely recommend going and having a look at the PSP emulator and just going and find yourself some backup ROMs of the games that you've got, and using the tips and tricks that I taught you in this video. You can also transfer your saves if you're on the PSP and you want to play and then you want it on that bigger screen and you want to transfer those saves. Obviously, you should now know how to do that. So hopefully that was all very, very useful. If you want to get yourself into homebrew as well, obviously, as I mentioned, you can use the emulator for doing the homebrew. If you want to get it onto your PSP, go check out my video on how to do that as well. So that's it for this week. Coming up, we've got the actual month with series output review. That was the word I was looking for. I had a brain moment then. Looking for the review. That'll be up next week, so I'll be telling you what it's been like to live with the PSP. Obviously, go and check out some of my other videos. I played Vice City and Liberty City last week, and I also did Battle of the Blocks earlier in the month as well. I'll talk about what I think are some of the greatest block games on your portable handheld devices. We'll also be playing on London Racer soon as well, as part of the PS1 Racer Challenge set by Retro Red Steve, so that comes up every month, as you all know. And yeah, I'll also be revealing what's coming up next month in next week's video as well, what my next emulator or console will be for the next month. So yeah, that's probably it for the day. So if you do enjoy these videos, please do hit that like and subscribe button. Really do appreciate your support. Keep an eye open for my Bit Between and on a Wednesday, which is just a short game review. Very exciting one next week. Toe Jam and Earl coming up next Wednesday. And sorry, no, what am I talking about? That's been and gone. That's Wednesday past. I'm filming at all weird different times, so Toe Jam and Earl's already done, so go check that out. There'll be another Bit Between video coming next Wednesday as well, and also I have my Monday shorts as well if you just want a quick fix of something nostalgic and retro. So please go check those out on TikTok and on YouTube Shorts. So we'll leave it there for the day. Please do all take care of yourselves, and until the next time, I'll see you around. Bye for now.